Okay, students, this tutorial follows on from the previous one where you managed to successfully model this part. We're now going to increase the difficulty level. This particular part is significantly much more complex than the previous one, and I know that some of you might be looking at this thinking, right, how would we model this? By now you should have worked out, and you should have seen that there is no one definitive way to modeling something, especially as the complexity increases. So I'm going to go through it in a particular way. You're more than welcome to attempt a different manner. You might find that actually there's another way that you might prefer. This is simply a suggestion in terms of how we can model this. So the main thing that I'm looking at is this cylindrical part here. I'm going to focus on that as the center of my design. I'm going to look at the diameter, so it's 48mm diameter, and then we'll do all of the cutaway section afterwards. So that's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to call this tutorial 02. So it's going to be the second technical drawing. So as we said, I'm looking at that circle feature. Now it does add to the difficulty somewhat, the fact that we are only able to view this in 3D, but I can see that we have a 48mm diameter and then a 30mm diameter cutout going through. So that's what we're going to start with. And again, hopefully by doing this, I'm also going to try to show you some additional tips. So click the sketch tool, click the right hand plane, click on the right side of the view cube, select my circle, in the center, click, did we say it was 48 diameter? Sometimes that does happen. Let's just turn that around. So did we say 48 diameter? Now, usually, from what I taught you in the previous tutorials, was that we can extrude this out, and I'll actually go through it here with you. Extrude that, and then make the cutaway inside. Now we can see that this is a 24mm depth or thickness, so we type in 24, green tick, go to sketch again, click on the sketch plane, and then simply make another circle which is 30mm diameter. However, there is a much simpler way of doing this. So rather than now cutting that through, that goes all the way through, use the cutout or remove, and we're going to go up to next, which is fine. Now there's an easier way to do that. I simply want to show you that method, quite a few steps. If I just delete that, and we're going to go into, and again this also gives me another opportunity to show you editing sketches. So we've already got this extrude. Rather than get rid of this extrude and click on that and go to delete, what we can actually do is make some changes to our sketch. So right click, go to edit. What happens is the software rolls it back to that original sketch profile, and what we're going to do is create another circle within, and again just remind myself it's 30mm diameter, and then click on the tick, and you see what's happened here. OnShape has automatically detected that we only want to keep that outer ring. There's no point in having two sketches here and it extruding both. So again, hopefully a tip that you can use, time saving. That's essentially what I'm trying to do, not just teach you this software, but teach you good practice and efficient modeling techniques. So let's go back to our technical drawing. Now, what I want to do is draw this part going out. Now, again, it is quite difficult to see the exact dimension, we've got a 24mm height here, which sits in the middle. And again, it could be that the way that you model this is very much like going back to our initial sketch and making adjustments. So I know that I've got this rectangular, or this section sticking out here. We know that it has a distance of 35 coming out from the center of our circle. So that's going to be 35 going out, and then 25mm high. So let's create our rectangle. I'm going to click on the center point, and we're going to have to use our our dimensioning tool. So for now, I'm just modeling very blindly. I'm not going to click on the green tick yet because I've got some dimensioning to do. So we know that the distance from this end here to the center of the circle is 35. So let's do that now. That's got to be 35. Now, sometimes like this, it does throw up an error. So what I would like you to do is hit your Control Z until we get rid of that rectangle. And that's because what's happened is, so if I just go to Control Y and redo, you'll notice that all these little icons, it's overly constrained. You have some rules set in place and it can't now alter that. So, and this is also good modeling practice, seeing mistakes being made so that you can then rectify them. I'm going to start off by snapping to this center line and just dragging across. Now I know that that measurement has to be 35, just double check that, 35. And so before I set my new line, I can type in 35. That makes sure it's 35 from there. I know that my height needs to be 24. So after I click each line, it goes across and then back here. Now the problem with this is we don't know if this is center. We don't know if the center of this line is center with this line. So again, using some of our techniques from the previous tutorial, we can select this dimension. We know it should be half of 24, so we simply type in 12. Can you see that that's shifted it up, or in this case down? And now we can start using our trimming tool. Okay, so we're going to use our trim tool, and what this does is if you hover over certain sections, it automatically shows you what it will trim. So we only want to keep this section here. We're also going to get rid of that tool. Okay, now if we click on OK, have you noticed how it updates our sketch? So again, really good practice. Now we've got this section here complete. What we need to do now is make this rectangular section, and then we'll finally cut out this section there and also this through hole. So let's go back to our sketch. We now know we have from this end to the end here is 100. So 100 take away 35 gives us 65. So we need to create in the same manner a rectangle which goes across 65 with a height of 38. So let's do that. Go back into our sketch 1, go to edit, click on the right plane. Using the line tool, I'd simply snap to that center line. Click, we said it needed to be 65 because 100 take away 35 was 65. Click on enter. And then the height of this needed to be 38. And then again, just snap it to here. We know it's going to be 65. Use our dimension tool so that this is in the center. So we are using this central plane or axis here. We know that half of 38 is going to be 19. did that adjust it? It didn't look like it. Oh, because it's such a minute amount, you haven't actually seen it, but it does slightly adjust that. I'm going to go back to our trim tool, select this, select that, select that. We've now got something which looks very much like our shape. Now the only problem, as you've probably noticed, is I know we're looking at this cutaway here and we're thinking, can we not do the same thing where we made this ring and then when we extrude it, it will get rid of that? Well, we can't actually do that in this particular case. And the reason why, I'm not sure if you can see from that angle or from that view, that it doesn't go all the way through. So if we were to make this interior rectangle, it would actually cut it all the way through. So what we need to do now is sketch on a face. Okay, so we're going to use this face and we're going to sketch on there, and we're going to create our mini or our slightly smaller rectangle, and that is going to have the same dimensions, but it's 16. Okay, so just 16 high, and it's just going to go to our center, which is again 65 millimeters. So draw a line, snap it to that center line. We can snap it to that line because we know that will be 65. This needs to be 16. Snap it to that line there, and then right click escape line, gets out of that tool. What we need to do now is trim, or actually before that we need to make sure this is sitting in the center, so click either the top or the bottom, click that middle plane. Half of 16 is 8, shifts it to the middle. Now we're going to use the trim tool, get rid of, have you noticed that it's trimmed the whole aspect? Now whilst we might see a sketch or a line there, technically we haven't actually sketched there. So I'm going to press Ctrl Z. What we need to do is we need to include this sketch on the current face or plane that we're drawing on. And this also brings me onto another tool here, which is called the, see if I can find it, the project tool. So in this particular case, rather than having to draw a circle again, which would be very easy to do, might I add, just by clicking there and then typing, what was it, 34 I think, was that 34, was it? Sorry, 30. Rather than having to do that, we can just use this project tool, and what it does is, if you select a feature from another shape or another edge, it simply projects it onto the sketch plane that we're working on. Now if we use a trim tool, you'll notice it actually just gets rid of that section. So now we've got a closed shape. Click on the green tick, click on the extrude tool, use remove. Let's just go back to how deep it goes in. Can you see it goes in by 14? Click on that, click on the depth and enter 14, and then click on the green tick. Now we're very close to finishing this this part. Last thing left is this through hole. Now this goes all the way through, okay? It does tell us that, it says through hole. We are going to sketch on this face, so click on the sketch tool, click on this face, click on the front, select our circle tool. It had a diameter of 18, click 18, let's set it up to be in the center. Now we want the distance between the diameter, or the center point of the circle and this line which is in the center of the part to be 0, and then we want the distance here. So what was that thickness? 24. So 24 divided by 2 is going to be 12. And we click on the green tick. And now we're going to click on the extrude tool, remove, select that face, and we want it to go up to next, and that just goes all the way through. Okay, you can see it goes all the way through. We're happy with that. Green tick. So there you go, you've just modeled your first complex part. I've shown you the trim tool, I've shown you the project tool, which allows you to include certain sketches onto the plane that you're currently sketching on. So well done if you were able to keep up with that. Please do have a go and try to make that part.